next game was one. Objectively, I'm going to take off my GWS hat. And objectively, Donnie, this was an absolutely fantastic game of football. This is, if you're watching this and you're not a fan of either team, this is exactly what you want to see every single round. If we can get if we can get 9 games around of this, then this is by far, it's only going to prove that it's the greatest sport in the world, and this is perfect. This is damn near perfect football. Way better than what was it, 2017 game between these guys, and the most important game of the season. But we're not going to talk about that. But
It
the
was
only
29. It was 2019, but let's not
2019.
get too technical on the years.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I wish it was farther ago. Oh man, and what sucked is I thought the Giants really turned the page this season. They've been looking a lot better, but old habits die hard. And what did we see a lot of the time last season, Donnie? We saw leads, and we saw them get choked away in the fourth quarter by the Giants. And what did we see this game? We see a 28-point lead going into the fourth, and we see that get choked away in typical Giants fashion. And there's only a little more salt in the wound because Toby Green, he breaks his shoulder. He's out for 4 weeks. And what kind of fueled this comeback, though, was Dusty Martin. I believe, really, since he came back from his absence, his fairly short absence, I think this is his first, big game since then. He kicks 4 goals in this. He's everywhere on this football field. And the thing is, it's not a complete waste of a game for the Giants because with size, they once again showed that they could hold their own against one of these top teams, against one of these legitimate contenders, against a possible top 4 team, almost like what they did with the Western Bulldogs. They really hold their own in that game, and they have flashes where they should win. They should have won this game. This would have been a huge statement win. Probably, shoot, it's a young team, so you might be able to get. I might be able to get with saying this would have been one of the biggest games, most impactful wins in team history, where we are in the season. Not able to do that. Richmond's still a solid team. I guess, are they finally going to get on track? Is this finally the game that gets them to winning a bunch of games later in the season? I don't know with this team, but with the GWS, at least you gave your spiel on Sydney, so here's my spiel about the Giants. They are a good team. They can contend for the finals this year. It's getting tough, though, because that margin between the top 8 and then the bottom 10 is growing. But Donnie was kind of breaking this down too. Is that before the show? Is that the Giants realistically are the only team out of the top 8 that have a chance of making a finals push. They can still do this. It's going to be tough without Toby Green, but if they can just go 2-2 over these next 4 games without Green, that's going to be huge. And the hope isn't dead yet. This team can still contend and possibly beat the best teams in the league. It's really just a matter of putting a full 80-minute game together.
Oh, geez. Let's approach this on 2 different ways. There's the GWS side where I think you played a really, really good game against one of the better teams in the entire competition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they're a little injured. Yes, they aren't playing as good a footy, but again, this is a GWS team that with so many big losses in so many key areas, for you to blood the youth that you are playing with and to still be this competitive against one of the best teams over the last 4 seasons. If you're a GWS fan, you have to be smiling because think about this. You've still got DeBoer, Canelio, Davis, and now Green still to come back into this lineup.
Mm-hmm.
And you've literally made a superstar out of the Green in the midfield. I mean, this GWS team legitimately can make finals. They just have to kind of survive. They kind of have to survive these next few weeks until they get DeBoer, Canelio, and Davis back. And hopefully Green comes back in that time frame. Now you have the
Mm-hmm.
bye week coming up here pretty soon, so that may really help you get some of these guys back. So if I'm GWS, this is again, I hate saying this, but it's true. This is a moral win
Mm-hmm.
for GWS. The only thing that if I'm Coach Cameron, I'm kicking myself is you outshot on you out total shots on goal, you had 23. Okay. 23 shots to 24 for the Tigers.
Mm-hmm.
If you put two of those behinds
Stop talking.
to two goals, you win this game. It's not the game that it was. Again, kind of like what if we're gonna say it about St. Kilda, we got to be honest here. You have 11 behinds
It's not good.
to 12 goals. Two goals go through. This is a completely different game. So this is, and then let's flip it to the Tigers. Dusty being Dusty. Okay, he kicks two goals late in that second quarter, and I think that flipped the game and gave the Tigers momentum going into the second half. Because if
Mm-hmm.
Dusty doesn't kick those two goals, GWS wins this game running away.
Yes.
Because GWS goes into the halftime with a double digit, with like almost a 20-point lead. So it's a completely different game if Dusty doesn't kick those two late goals in the second quarter, which I think gave the Tigers a ton of momentum going into the halftime break, and they came out on fire. And the third quarter, they bounced it to the point where they're only down 3 points after the third quarter, and then it was back and forth for most of the fourth until Daniel Rioli gets the nice bunt. Lockie Whitfield, I felt so horrible for him because he gets the worst possible bounce. It gets over him. Rioli collects it,
Oh
kicks the
man.
goal with like 13 seconds left in the game, and then there's nothing much you can do. You try to ruck tap it, get up. Richmond ruck taps, and in just the right way, you can able to run the clock out. So
Mm-hmm.
this was a great game. Neither team can really hang their head on the performance. It stinks to lose a game when you pretty much dominate it most of the game, and you just don't have enough to hold on late. And I think that's what really kind of killed GWS. And then I don't know if you saw this. Did you see that one
Oh,
of the few times ever the goal umpire got hurt?
that was like was it shoulder? Did it end up being a shoulder injury?
Dislocated his shoulder. It
Oh,
popped out of his shoulder.
well, I guess if you got a dislocated shoulder, it's really hard to point. And so I understand him taking him out of the
Well,
game.
and the other crazy thing
Oh,
about it is this is the third time that this goal umpire has had an issue with getting run into or being involved in a play this season. Earlier in the year, Joe Danaher tried to use that goal umpire for a specky in a game that Brisbane played in,
that's
and
right.
he also was involved. I think he was involved in another play where he got ran into after a goal was scored. This is
This
the third
poor
time
guy.
this
What's
this
he
goal
just has a
umpire.
magnet on his back for this stuff. Oh,
Yes, and
oh,
unfortunately, the dislocated shoulder. I think he'll be out. I think he'll be out almost a month. But I thought it's just interesting that
that's
he
great.
keeps finding a way to get involved to be kind of front and center, shall we say, for some of these goal plays. But the
Doing all.
best part is he got up, and the Tigers fans actually gave him a standing ovation as they walked him to the change rooms
You
for the
mean
ref.
those 18,000 or so Tigers fans that was at Marvel Stadium and not the MCG is something
Oh,
that I guess a special someone took a little bit of a had a little disagreement with that one. But also is that special someone trying to blame their lack of a their poor performance in this game on the fact that they were in a different stadium. Donnie, would you like to elaborate a little bit more on this one? Because I thought this was one of the dumbest things I've ever heard.
oh, Damian Hardwick, way to open your mouth and insert your foot, sir. Okay. For I know several of the Australian fans will know this, but if when it comes to the MCG, Punt Road is literally steps away from the MCG. Most of the fans can take they've got tram stations throughout Melbourne, and you can tram through to most parts of Melbourne. I think Marvel Stadium is only something like 5 to 8 kilometers away from the MCG. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like it's a massive trip. But for some weird reason, Damian Hardwick after the game goes, well, yeah, just Richmond people don't come here. And I'm almost like, well, really? I mean, your team's playing really well. Why aren't they going to the game? And what I later found out is one of their there was somebody else who was connected to the club who 3 days earlier had also kind of stated the same thing. He's like, "Well, we like our home games at the MCG." Well, a little bit of facts here for some of the people that don't know this. If it weren't for Marvel Stadium, I will say this right now, this podcast would have never happened because last year's AFL season wouldn't have happened if it weren't for Marvel because the AFL owns Marvel Stadium and they used Marvel Stadium to get the loan to be able to pay for last year's season.
Mm.
So not only is this ignorance upon ignorance by Damian Hardwick, because if it weren't for Marvel Stadium, the stadium you're saying your fans don't want to go to, you wouldn't have gotten a flag last year, sir. Okay. You wouldn't have. The AFL might not have survived if it weren't for Marvel Stadium. And another thing, you may want to tell him to go talk to the lawyers at Richmond because the league agrees that every single Melbourne team will have at least one home game at Marvel Stadium.
Mm-hmm.
So his argument is asinine at the least. Okay. Do I understand that you're going to get more fans and it's closer to your home stadium at the MCG? Yes, I completely understand that. But here's the thing, Richmond and many Victorian clubs don't want you to bring up with them. Most of the home games and road games are played in the same darn stadium. Okay. They went through it. Richmond will play 14 of their 22 games at the MCG or Marvel.
Mm-hmm.
14 out of 22. The rest are out of state because they don't play in Geelong because Geelong's not big enough. So they have to play Geelong's home game. For those that are listening to the podcast, those were
Yep.
air quotes
Yeah.
there at the MCG, which
Mm-hmm.
conveniently is what? Richmond's home ground.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, okay?
Pretty
Th-
weak.
th-
It's pretty
this
weak.
does this does get really ridiculous, okay? Hardwick, shut up, okay? I respect you as a coach. You're a great coach. Just stop talking about stuff. You have no idea what you're talking about, okay? You won. I you won. I really don't understand why there's this massive gripe.
Right.
Okay. I
It's
really just don't understand it. It just seems buffoonish to me, if I'm being bluntly honest. Okay.
there's a reason it's one of the dumbest things I've heard in a long, long time.